also for Pascal, the reason she could believe that this is Max is that, come on, the De Leon castle is an old castle, more than 300 years old. Strange things happening in an old building like that is not completely out of the ordinary. Actually gives me chills talking about this. I don't think I want to go to an old castle. Hello, Novels and Bits listener. How are you doing today? Okay, this should be episode 16, I think. Alright, this should be episode 16. And wow, 16 episodes already. My gosh. Thank you for listening, honestly. Because every time you listen, it's a reason to continue this. Like, I love this work, but this work is much more meaningful because you are listening. So thank you so much for being here. All right, on today's version, today's episode of Novels and Beds, we're going to be continuing the story we started on Monday's episode 15. So if this is the first episode you're listening to, I'd recommend you go back and listen to the episode before this one. But there's always a quick recap. And before I move on, I really want to dedicate this episode to a faithful listener. Somto Chukwu, thank you. Somto Chukwu deals in all things electronics. When you talk about things like your AirPods, your chargers, iPhone deals, electricals and stuff. That's what his jam is. Somto discovered this podcast. He didn't even start with us. He didn't start from the first episode. But from wherever point he started, Somto has listened to every single episode afterwards. And Somto, thank you. It's an incredible gift. I know you have so much you could use your time for. School is demanding, your business is demanding. But each time a new podcast episode comes out, you listen to it before the day is up or just within a few days of it. It's a gift. Thank you so much, Somto. And I am not sure of Somto's social media handle is Instagram. I think I'll leave it in the show notes just in case you want to say hi to Somto and connect with him as a fellow listener and all that. So that's that. I really wanted to put that out there. Okay, so recap. We're talking about Misadventures with a Time Traveler by Angel Payne. So this is about a guy, Max, who traveled from 1789 to 2019. I've confirmed that the year he traveled to is 2019. So that's 150 years into the future, and a lot had changed. And he didn't realize at first he was in the future, but because, he's with this girl that he saw, that he's feeling this lost attraction thing to, and, they all go out to kind of explore the valley, and he's noticing that things are not the same, and that he because he didn't even realize at first he time traveled, and everything is strange for him. And then even this girl he's with, the main girl, her name is what's her name again? Alexandra, Ali for short. So Ali is also thinking, okay, this guy that I'm meeting, and he's perfect in every way, perfect period guy. But then, fall in love is not my thing. And, they come back to the castle because they actually, they and her friends went vacationing from America to France, to what used to be the guy's home, like his castle, the De Leon's castle. That's their surname, the De Leon, Deleon, like DED, and then LEON, De Leon, that sort of thing. That's the surname. So that's the castle they came to, and that's where they met, and that's where they're bonding at. And she is looking at him and wondering, why is this guy so different? But then time travel is not even coming to her mind. So now, after they've, gone out, and she's noticed that he's really like this child, he's looking at everything like, oh my gosh, this is so new. And she's wondering, okay, why is he being so strange? And then they come back, and then she's about to find out that, this guy's true identity and the fact that he time traveled and all that. This is not a case where the guy has to tell, oh, I time traveled. It's a case where he was an important person, or that he's an important person. So that means his portraits are there, history about him is recorded, and all of that. So she's going to learn all of this, but then the main problem is, will she actually believe it, or will she just chalk it up to some, hocus pocus and stuff like that? Yes? So let's go on. Part B, this is today's episode. Let's continue. as they came up, through the elevator and stuff, and the elevator door opened, a wolfhound, that's a breed. I'm not exactly sure what a wolfhound looks like, but this dog came bounding up the stairs, rushed to Max, and Max called this dog Chevalier. So he fell to his knees, he showered the dog with affection. Pascaline was agitated, and she wringed her hand nervously. Then Drew asked how they came up with the name Chevalier, like, oh, that's a cool name. So is it like a movie-inspired name or something? Pascaline was like, that's not the dog's name. So she turned, and then she went to the sitting room, and, her whole composure was just so airy, and Regan followed her while Drew and Ali, they finished picking up the rest of the tea service mess that Pascaline dropped. So there was an impressive portrait gallery when they joined Regan and Pascaline in the sitting room. But Drew wasn't impressed because they've already seen too many portraits that day in the other castles that they've explored. So she's like, oh, right, more dead people. And then Pascal and Ray, they were standing in front of a painting of Max. Like Pascal for short. Like the portrait they were standing in front of was Max's painted, and all of the details were him, including his stance, his fierce and noble stance. So he had one hand resting on the head of his pony dog that has the same dog from the passage. Max's hair was the same, his scar the same, and Ali went, ooh la la, like, ooh, whoever painted Max, got, because she assumed that he lived in the castle, so it's not weird his portrait is here, right? And then, but she didn't know his last name. Or yet, she asked him his last name in the tower. He didn't say Ba. He distracted her. So now the name on the painting now showed his real name. Like what's like most of these paintings, they have a name tag attached to it. So his name was now there, and his name was like Maximilian George Jean Valente de Leon. Really fancy. So hearing his last name, Ali was like, so he lives in this castle. And Pascal's response was she just cursed herself like, that's just a scary thought that he lives in this castle because he's literally a ghost. Ray said, right question, wrong tense. Like, he used to live in this he lives in this castle. He lived in this castle. Do you understand? He doesn't live here. He used to live here. So she brought Ali close to the identification plate again, where additional information now read. This is the fourth Comte. I don't know if it's Comte or Comte, So fourth Comte of the Lion, born 760 and died 1789. Ali just felt chills, like you would really feel chills at this kind of information. So Ali and Drew, but lucky, Ali and Drew still weren't getting there, like, okay, I feel chills, but that's because this Max resembles his great whatever guy, like, It took Ray explaining to them that this is actually Max. And it explains that, can't you guys were with me, right? We saw how this guy was just like filled with wonder and everything and all of that. But these girls weren't convinced. Dang skeptics. So Ali asked Pascal to confirm that Max was an actor. But Pascal said, she was like, Pascal, just tell me that Max is an actor. Come on, he must have really been interested in acting. And Pascal was like, I've never seen Max in the flesh before. Today's the first time. So after some time passed, like with Ali was like, okay. And Ali still didn't get it. So she asked Pascal, okay, what's the explanation right now? Because I'm not getting this. So Pascal asked again, you said Max came out of the wardrobe in your chamber. She's like, yes. Pascal said, it's impossible because according to public records, Maximilian de Leon was killed by a murderous mob during the early days of the revolution. His family members, Christophe, Ysabeau, I think it's Ysabeau. I'm just going to pronounce the Y as an I. And Bastien, they were beheaded publicly not long before. Ali remembered when Max talked about his family being gone while they were at the tower. She remembered his grief. But if the entire De Leon family were murdered, how come the castle still carried the De Leon name? Christophe, Max's father, apparently had a sister, Fiona, who didn't die in the uprisings. The deed to the land was signed over to her by Napoleon himself in 1801. Sally and her friends were baffled by how this could be, since Fiona was a woman and, 18th, 19th century wasn't exactly a time that was favorable to women. So Pascal informed them that nothing of the Lord Maximilian situation was usual. Napoleon had a good reason to remain in good favor with the De Leon family because he had plans to crown himself an emperor, and the De Leons could stand in his way if the rumors about the family were true. Because here's the thing, Max is actually a prince. Yeah, he's not like just a regular aristocrat. Since the King Louis is like Max's real dad, right? So Max could have actually inherited the throne if he had remained in his time and didn't die. Just excuse that English right now. So Max's mother, Ysabeau De Leon, was a favored consort of King Louis. The French would pronounce it as King Louis, right? She was a favorite consort, and she was often invited to his bedchambers. So King Louis impregnated her in 1759. Max was born in 1760. It didn't matter that Ysabeau was married to Christophe. The king's favor was like being touched by the sun. So it meant monetary gain and prosperity for the entire De Leon family. Also, Christophe couldn't impregnate Ysabeau, his wife, at first. So when she took him for the king, it was proof of her fertility. So Christophe loved Max even before he was fully formed in his mother's belly. So Max was a loved child, even though he was, more or less the king's bastard. But he's not exactly a bastard because his mom was married, right, to a man who accepted him and gave him his name and stuff. Yeah, well, the times, and it's the French, okay? So after Max was born, so Christophe, like Max's, adoptive dad, right, was able to impregnate his wife, Ysabeau, to give birth to Bastien. Bastien is Max's younger brother. So, and although public records stated that Max was executed, there was no specifics. There was an alternative version too of what happened that day when the mob stormed the place. Like in the beginning of the story, we saw the mob storm, the castle. In the beginning of the story, the tales were passed through the chateau staff and in law told at the local taverns. And that story is like that Max travel, was gypsy blood, helped him escape, blah, blah, blah. And Pascal used to think of it as wild fiction too until she saw Max that day. It could have been a coincidence that Max looked like he did, right? It could have just been like, okay, y'all are crazy. I mean, Max could literally just be someone who looks a lot like this painting. Things like that happened. But then the fact that he called the dog Chevalier, that was sealed the deal for Pascal, right? Because Max's dog, the one that was with him in the photo, that's the dog that is Chevalier, right? Let's just say that breed survived and Max saw the dog and, resembled his own dog and he called him that name. Do you get that sort of thing? And also for Pascal, the reason she could believe that this is Max is that, come on, the De Leon castle is an old castle, more than 300 years old. Strange things happening in an old building like that is not completely out of the ordinary. Actually gives me chills talking about this. I don't think I want to go to an old castle. My God. All right. So meanwhile, Max met Henry, Pascal's husband, who has the lion blood. Henry offered Max some sweatpants and a t-shirt that Max found super comfortable. Henry caught on that Max was really his ancestor. Like, oh wow, you're really related. Yeah. And we're talking about what options we are open to Max, given his current situation. Okay, travel through time. So you actually, first of all, you understand that you have limited time and you have to, be bound to this time by so much love. But before they could really talk about it and everything, they were interrupted by Ali. She came to confront Max over what she'd learned about him being some guy from the past. She wanted him to say it wasn't true, but he told her the truth, that yesterday I was in 1789 and today I came out of your wardrobe and I'm in the 21st century. She definitely struggled to believe it, especially since she was so attracted to him. She wished he were just a random hot guy she bedded and not some guy that crossed 250 years to be with her. Before she could get mad about this fact, he got all touchy and they got sidetracked because she was like, oh, he looks so attractive in his new clothes because he was wearing his clothes from 1789 before now. So she was worried that she was letting herself become her mom who couldn't do without a guy to give her a high feeling. So she pushed back from him and then he tried to make a promise of commitment to her. She stopped him before he could finish because she believed she wasn't a commitment type of girl and wasn't the type of girl who could anchor him to this time, because he needed an anchor. And she's like, I don't think I'm that anchor. She saw herself as someone with a messed up mind and scarred heart who couldn't give Max the passion, devotion, affection and joy he so freely gave and deserved in return. So Max was a smart, intuitive guy. He knew Ali thought she only had lust for him and couldn't love him. So like a big boy, he decided to take what she could give him, even though he'd already given her his everything. So this part is really heartbreaking. So he settled for the physical needs she felt for him and promised to make the week they had count. She was only supposed to be in France for a few more days before returning to America. Max would be with her, they would have a good time. Once she left and 28 days were up for him, he fade away to nothing. I mean, he was trying to be okay with all of that. But then Ali's business manager, the one she had initially thought hired Max, the Dimitri person, he showed up. And he came with good news, except this good news further limited the limited time that Ali and Max had. The good news had to do with Ali's career. Right? So let's talk about Ali's career a bit so that you can understand why this news was a big deal for her. So we know how the typical fashion world is mostly chairwomen by super skinny models. They're the ones who get praised for being goddesses at the beauty standard. So when Ali started, like she wanted to start in the beauty world, nobody gave her a chance, her blog a chance, because she wasn't a size 0. So she had to now explain to Max that since she was young, she wanted to be involved in the fashion world. For her, clothing is walking and moving art. And, clothing helped her escape her difficult childhood where her dad left when she was 3 and her mom blamed her. Like Ali, if I didn't have you, your dad wouldn't have left me. So for Ali, when she watched Disney movies growing up, she didn't dream of getting the prince like most girls did. Instead, she was awed by the costumes. The average girl is watching Disney films and she's like, oh, when will my prince show up and whisk me off my feet? But Ali is watching Disney movies and thinking, oh my gosh, that gown is killer. Look at the accessories. How could I create that? How could I recreate that? So because no one gave Ali a chance at first because of her size, she starved herself to reduce to a size 6. But even at size 6, she lost all her energy. She was even losing her hair, but nobody still cared because size 6 did not fit into the circle that was seen as perfect. So Ali had to come up with a new goal to widen that circle. So she succeeded in that goal because people who were big deals in the fashion industry were paying attention to her feedback about how they needed to have designs that included women with curves. So Ali had just recently submitted some audition reels, like a short video, to the Hemline streaming fashion channel. Apparently, this fashion channel is the world's hottest fashion network. So her dream was to land a reporter job there, then in a few years, maybe have her own show, right? Like Oprah's show and stuff like that. However, Dimitri showed up in all of his dramatic flair to announce that the fashion channel had seen Ali's audition reel and they wanted to discuss concepts for Ali's own show. So Ali's dream was coming to pass a few years early. She was hoping it's going to come later, but they're already telling her, oh my God, this guy saw your audition show and they want to, your audition videos, and they want to give you your own show right now. Do you understand? And they need you to come back to America right now. They're cutting your vacation short. So that means her time with Max. So any time that Max probably had to win her over is cut short. Wow, that's a disaster, right? So the downside was that she needed to leave immediately. Her trip was cut short. So Ali was caught in between joy and confusion. She'd only, right now, at this point in the story, her and Max had only been together for 2 days and they'd hoped for more. And, that day they made mad, passionate love because they were thinking it's going to be a last time. Ali cried a river afterwards. And then Dimitri booked a private charter for all of them to return to America. Actually, this one was sponsored by the Hemline because they're fashion is really come on, fashion industry has a lot of money, and this Hemline guy is one of the world's hottest. So they could afford to their newest talent, they could afford to sponsor a private jet to bring all of them back, both Ali and all her friends, to bring all of them back to America. So Ali was a complete mess few hours before they departed because they were supposed to travel in the night. You get it. It wasn't an early morning flight, so she had all day to deal with the fact that I'm going to leave here. So that night, Ali couldn't do basic things. That day, she couldn't do basic things like put on her makeup and wear her blouse right. She wore it inside out. And she didn't care because she couldn't stop crying. It's obvious you're missing this guy. They're connected to him. But you still don't want to agree that you're falling in love. That is how your strong head is doing you. And she's never experienced anything like this before. So it was confusing to her. Even when her mom had messy breakups, or even when the hate emails and comments came, when she literally started blogging, even when she was rejected for the 100th time and told that there is no place for a curvy girl in high-end fashion reporting, she didn't feel so bad. She just came out of all those experiences knowing, okay, I should just keep going on. But in this case, she no longer felt right, knowing she was going to leave Max behind. So, one reason why Ali didn't feel right was her friends reminded her that, see, this Max guy, he really doesn't have time. I mean, he only has 3.5 weeks left to complete his love story, or he's going to vanish, right? He's going to vanish from from human existence. And Ali she's like, you're like high on something. You can't really believe that, right? She was afraid to acknowledge that it was because, and the reason why she was afraid to acknowledge that Max was from the past, the time travel thing, is because it meant it's up to her to complete the story. And honestly, her entire life, she'd only ever dreamed of having her own show, not a man. It really hurt her to think that she would leave behind the man who brought beauty and words to her world. Because, Max is really pretty special to her. And this is the same man who saw beauty and words in her. Because Max is the kind of lover that whenever they're done with, their bed stuff, he's listening to her, he's looking at her, he's seeing her, he wants to hear her. You understand? He's not like, okay, I've gotten the body thing out, so yeah, I can snore and maybe pretend I'm listening to you. He's not like that. He's like really all about her, right? But she just felt Max needs someone better than me. So meanwhile, the residing De Leons, Henry and Pascal, the couple, they allowed Max to stay at the chateau for one more night. So he lodged in Bastien's former room. Bastien is that his younger brother now. So being in the room brought back memories from a happier time, and it made Max ache because he missed his dead family. He tried to bury the pain because he now tried to remember the newer memories that he just made with Ali. So Drew and Regan found him there, and they took him back with them to the chateau, like to the private jet. It had rained, so it had delayed their leaving time. So they're taking the opportunity to come and take Max with them back to America without Ali knowing. So they wanted to hide him on the private jet. Advantages of private jets, because if it's like commercial flights, you can't do that. You need all the fancy visas and stuff. Dimitri was on the plan, and already he actually got, because of the authorities that when they land to clear them, they got fake work visa and ID for Max. So Henry packed it back for Max, like they're like, okay, Drew and Regan were like, hey, Max, you need to pack your bag. Henry already packed the bag. Then he also handed Max something that belonged to Max from his own time. Like it was this golden round timepiece. So it had Max's initials engraved on it, MGJVL. That's Maximilian George Jean Valence De Leon. So cool. So Max was so grateful for everyone's inputs. The guy was just bursting with gratitude. So in the middle of the flight, Ali was really was really down. But in the middle of the flight, she discovered Max in the onboard bedroom because she was like, I'm going to go sleep. And she found him there in the bedroom. He was kneeling on the bed. He was peering out the window like a kid visiting an amusement park, because obviously he's his first time on flight. He was wearing a flight attendant's black suit, and it was perfection on him. So in Ali's eyes, he was a fulfillment of everything her soul had ached for her entire life. But she won't still admit to being in love with him and make all of our lives easier. Stubborn girl. So Ali wanted to smack her friends. Like, oh my God, I can't believe you guys. How can you be? But at the same time, she hugged them so tight. Like, thank you for bringing Max. Like, thank you for this big surprise. She still thought Max was either some psychiatric patient who had gone missing or a dead man missing from his coffin. I mean, that's still what she's thinking. But she's like, I don't care. He's here. He feels good, strong and real. I'm taking him. So soon enough, Ali brought up the curse and her supposed rule in it. Like, she brought it up to Max. Max didn't know she knew about that part, about, that if she didn't publicly announce, her love for him, he'll vanish. Max, but he just assured her that, don't worry, I didn't come on this trip to make you believe. I just came on this trip to keep loving you as long as fate would let me. Is it just the sweetest or not? Like, he's so sweet. So Ali secretly hoped that Max would make her believe, but she didn't tell him. 10 days later, Ali, obviously they're in America now. Max is living in Ali's apartment, for the time he has left and all that. But he's been having nightmares. So Ali had to wake him up from another nightmare. And these nightmares, when his memories of his family's beheading. And each time she'd just console him, obviously with lovemaking. She didn't still believe in Max's family because she, and each time Max would be like, you don't even believe in my family. She's like, hello, guy. I am cutting you the slack by believing in all your time travel, story and stuff. I mean, how many people would actually tolerate that? But do you get, she's trying to be all sassy and at the same time, she doesn't want to be apart from him. She's just in a state of limbo and confusion, yeah? She didn't believe in Max's family because she refused to believe in Max's history. Yeah, she was trying to have all the time she could possibly have with him before anything happened that took him away from her. Do you get? So, yeah, she wouldn't admit she loved him because she didn't want to become like the women who threw everything away in the name of true love that didn't last. You get this? She just felt that if I believe in Max's family, it means I believe his history. It means that I have to take responsibility for him, and I'm not ready to. Do you understand? So she just trying to have the best time with him. Do you get? And she didn't also want to admitting to loving him meant that she'll become like the women who threw away everything in the name of true love that didn't last. So Max had a big problem that he recognized from the beginning. Do you understand? And the problem is that he can't make Ali believe, because Ali's enemies were her own logic, right? Her will and her fears. It was something she had to overcome on her own. And if she didn't, she remained an unbeliever and he was done for. So their relationship became strained. Yeah. So, and 2 days from now, like 2 days after that, like 10 days, yeah, they were meant to attend this grand soiree that Hemline Nobility was hosting, the biggest fashion network people now. So it was a really important event for Ali. So they went for their fittings, like, for the fancy gown and suits they'll be wearing. Max's suit fits just fine, but Ali's dress needed some readjustments. The seamstress, Rafina, who was supposed to make the altercation, sends a tension between Max and Ali, because you can feel when a couple is fighting. And Rafina should try to use that opportunity to win Max over, like, come on, shameless woman. Already, Ali was dealing with the tension of knowing that next week Hemline's new shows would be announced, and then she could confirm if Hemline was actually giving her a show. They understand. Also, the authorities have been coming on to Max. Dimitri had been the one putting them off. So she either needed to marry him or buy him a ticket back to France. That's something she was dealing with. And then, on top of that thing, Rafina was just like flirting shamelessly with Max in front of her. So it got on Ali's nerves so badly. Normally, it was the kind of situation that Ali took advantage of to end the relationship. Like, she would meet the guy and be like, yeah, you're not faithful, get out. But in this case, instead of facing Max, she faced Rafina instead. It's the first time she's actually fighting the woman instead of like facing the man and like scram and all that. So the seamstress was completely shameless in her pursuit of Max. She even suggested that, Max's suit needs to be thoroughly checked, touching him, part of his suit provocatively and all that, to make sure it did fit. Like, he should come to my personal dressing room. Like, what the hell is wrong with you, woman? She was so suggestive, it was great. And so Max tried to pull Ali out of the situation. Like, Ali, just ignore her. Come on, let's go. She now told Max, stay out of it. So it was then that Rafina chipped in a statement that made Ali see red. Rafina said, perhaps that is not the only thing you have ordered him out of, which is why he's growling for a chance to get into me. What the? Ali punched her. She didn't even know why she did it. And Ali regretted it so bad, even if Rafina deserved it. At the party, Ali was still like, that was the day now they went to the party. So Ali clung to the shadows. She refused to join in the celebrations. And although Max was itching to explore the party because he's like, oh my God, because he's only been in period balls now and this is a modern party. And he was just itching like, oh my God, I want to see these people. I want to dance. I want to do this. But because Ali was down, he stuck to her side and just tried to cheer her up. Sweet guy, completely sweet guy. Some people will be like, I beg, my time is limited. Let me go and enjoy myself. But he didn't do that. So he complimented how Ali looked in her dress. And she reminded him that, oh, this dress, I had to make the altercations myself because Rafina threatened to sue me if I didn't leave her shop. So this Rafina seamstress, in all her shameless French sex, like, as bad as she is, she's very popular in the industry. She's high in demand. And she made a tweet about, that incident with Ali. And Ali was worried that, the fact that the incident might make the Hemline guys drop her from hosting the show. So Max consoled her and he was so understanding. And it did hurt him that Ali wouldn't let herself love him, but he knew that her heart was hurt. He was determined to prove to her that he loved her, even if he had to die to prove it to her. So they got into this amorous situation, like all kissing and touching, but it was interrupted by Dimitri. So Dimitri came to share the good news that Ali just hits 1 million followers in the midst of the scandal. Really, scandal sells. I mean, if you use it right, it really does sell. And she could use that achievement, the 1 million followers achievement, to negotiate a better salary from Hemline. Apparently, Hemline had decided that Ali would headline their fall lineup. It was a major big deal. Like, headlining a show, it's like, come on, you're like, it's a big deal, literally. That means, yes, you would have your own show. So another 8 days flew by quickly. Ali had her private. So as this 8 days flew by, Ali had private dressing room. They set up a private dressing room for her, hemline studio, and the babe was balling. They even sent a town car to pick her from her house to the studio, like a limo and all that. So her friends came around to celebrate with her, Drew and Regan, and then her mom called too to congratulate her. That day was her debut day, and hemline will be showing her to the world as, like, you know, the new show person and stuff, like their new talent. So Max left that morning. You know, that's the morning of that 8th day. And, you know, he left before Ali woke up. Ali was trying so hard not to sleep. She was just trying to stay awake with him. They made, you know, the previous night, they made love a ton of times. And still, you know, she still refused to believe in her heart that he would disappear. Although dread was still kind of starting to take over, like, would he be all right? She couldn't share the thought that, like, she just couldn't shade the thoughts that something was wrong. Like, this guy could actually be meaning all of this and he could disappear from this world because of me. So after the makeup team dolled her up, Ali steps into a beautiful dream with a small crowd clapping. There was phone snapshots taken. It was uploaded to social media, got a ton of likes. More likes were pouring in. Like, everything was a dream, but it wasn't a dream come true because Max wasn't there. She was just bombarded with thoughts of him, and her interview is about to start. It was then it hit Ali that she believed everything about Max. Like, that crucial time, I believe the time travel, I believe the curse, but she was like, oh my god, it's too late, which means I've killed him because he's probably dead somewhere. That's what she was thinking. At this time, the interviewer asked Ali a question, but Ali was so lost in her thought that she knew that if she opened her mouth to answer, she would just burst into sobs. She was like, can you give me a minute? I think I'm so happy. And it's overwhelming. I think I need a moment. Oh my god, that kind of white lie. But Ali's heart was breaking and she was sorrowful. She had allowed her fears to plunge her into deep grief. Like her fears that, oh, if I get together with this guy, I'm throwing away my life. This love wouldn't last. But now that she supposedly let the guy go, she's still suffering. So tears were pouring from her eyes and she turned to look into the audience and she saw him. Max was there. So she wiped off the tears on her face, and that's damaging her makeup, her perfect makeup that looks like Instagram filter. So she pulled off her stilettos because she was wearing these brand new red shoes that she splodged in, and then she watched as Max walked towards her because people were parting to let him walk through. And that reassurance was like, oh, thank God, that's not his ghost, that's him. So she ran to him. Then everything else faded into the background. She kissed him hard. It dawned on her that if loving Max would come with pain, okay, that's it. I don't care if it's going to be painful to love this guy sometimes. I'm willing to accept it. She would no longer hide and protect herself. He was real, he was hers, and that's all that mattered. But suddenly, Max wasn't solid anymore. It was as if he was flickering, like his phone was coming in and out. You know, he couldn't hold her in his arms. His breath became shallow. His body started to sway. Even his kiss was too soft. Ali felt a lot of pain. She was watching Max slowly disintegrate from his knees down. There is no more body there and all of that. He was turning into sparkling ash. He apologized that she had to see him in that state, but he had so wanted to see her reach her dreams, you know, the hemline show and stuff like that before leaving. So as he fell to the ground, she threw herself on him. She wrapped her arms around his waist. She cried. She begged him to stay. Her tears soaked his t-shirt, but it didn't stop the disintegration from continuing. We obviously know what would make the disintegration stop, but, you know, the moment and stuff. So Max whispered he loved her, and she said she loved him too. Yeah, the magic word. I love you, in front of witnesses. Remember, a small crowd is there and everything. These are studios. So she's like, I love you too, so just stop whatever BS this is and return to me. She didn't care that she was humiliating herself publicly. Everything she said that, oh, I'm never going to do. She's doing it because it's like clear to her, I love this guy and I want him to stay with me. So she was mourning Max's loss. But then everyone cheered and applauded. And then when she lifted her head to see the reason, she now saw that Max's hand was back, his torso, other parts of his bodies were back too. So she kissed him deeply in joy, and everyone clapped, thinking it was all his show and a PR stunt for the Ali and Max show. So apparently they want to now so Ali and Max are going to host the show. Oh, so cool. So the guy automatically has a job and now a reason to stay in the States and all of that. I mean, it's a cool story. It's a feel-good story. I just wish that it had less of modern jargon. It's because the writer wrote in such a poetic way, too poetic. At the point that I would have to read several sentences. I was like, oh, this sentence is really pretty, but I'm having a hard time understanding it. I had a lot of moments like that when I was reading this book. And then, oh my God, too many sex scenes. Jeez. Oh. But anyhow, it's a great story overall. And thank you for sticking to the end. And I'll see you on Monday with a new story. It's a historical fiction called Monday. Don't miss it. I am so looking forward to seeing you. Bye-bye. Thank you for been with me today on Novels and Bits.